Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kostuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful Sri Dham, Mayapur, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kostuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. We made it back. It's been a while. Kostuba's been sick. He's still sick. He's not doing the show today. He is laying on his side like Neem Karoli Baba, if you can see, up on the Zoom windows out there. And he left the show over to me today, but we're doing interview day because we have a good friend, Giridhari. But before we bring Giridhari on the show, Miss Mara, we got some announcements to make. I got some. What do you got?
Well, I got back to recovery group meetings today at noon and 1:30. And also today's release of the Bhakti Recovery podcast, you and Jiva were talking, right?
Me and Jiva had a great podcast. We did today. It's going to be uploaded today. If you're not familiar with the Bhakti Recovery podcast, you'll like it. It digs deep into these really sort of, I think, problems that everybody faces, but they especially come up in people's recovery. So today we spoke about radical responsibility, getting rid of blame, getting rid of complaining. That alone can revolutionize your spiritual life. So check that out. Bhakti Recovery podcast. Listen to it. Go to Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star review. Leave a comment for Jiva. Everybody needs encouragement, but she and the Bhakti Recovery Group, they're doing life-changing work. And we've been happy enough. We've been having so much fun staying with Jiva while we're here. Mara's been a little sick. She's a little, not super sicky, just a little achy, a little sleepy. We're going to blame Kostuba for this one.
We're going to take radical responsibility and not blame anyone.
And blame Kostuba. I've got an announcement. I had lunch at my good friend Gauranga Singha house. And if you can see now, if you're listening on any other platform except Zoom or YouTube, look how beautiful this bead bag is, hand painted for my good friend at Silver Tulsi Mala. Silver_Tulasi_Mala. You could check them out. And he gave me 3 things to give away. So for the next 3 consecutive weeks, we're going to have giveaways. And to win this beautiful hand-painted bead bag, here's what you got to do. You got to find the most beautiful picture of Krishna you can find and put it up on your Instagram and tag Wisdom of the Sages, tag at Raghunath Yogi, and tag Silver_Tulasi_Mala. And whatever then me and Mara are going to pick what is the most beautiful picture of Krishna. And
I get to help pick?
You get to help pick. And we're going to give it away at the end of the week. And we have 3 gifts from them, but the first one is a bead bag. So that's part of our Silver Tulsi Mala giveaway. I had the best lunch. You know what I had today?
What?
I had pasta and salad, which I really craved. I've been eating Tollies since I've been here. And when they pulled out that pasta, I was like, how did you know I want pasta? Yeah. So it was very good. And there was a secret. I'm not allowed to announce it yet, but I can't say it. But everybody on the message board knows all about it.
Yeah, all our Zoomers already know it.
All the Zoomers already know it, but
okay.
I think something was released on Audible and it wasn't supposed to be released yet. So I got to wait to hear from the publisher if I can announce it yet. It was supposed to be released, I think, after the book came out.
Right, right.
But anyway, that's all we're gonna say. Any more announcements?
Tomorrow is Cult of Cain Asana class for our Patreon members at 10:30 a.m.
Okay, great. And hopefully we're gonna get Kasuba back.
And hopefully we'll get back on a regular schedule.
Yeah, although
here
we're
on out.
traveling the next day to Calcutta.
Yeah, well, tomorrow will be good.
Tomorrow will be good. How about
No, the next day, I think we could do it by this time though.
we'll figure it out. How
Yeah.
about that? Okay, so before we go anywhere else, I just want to introduce our special guest, and I wanted to grab him because I've been a big fan of his for a while. Come on down, Giridhari. How are you? Giridhari is a Bridge Bossy. Bridge Bossy means sort of lives in Brudge. Now they say that there's different types of Bridge Bosses. Some are born there, and some.
It's called a Brajajan.
A-
It's a person.
You got to speak. This is a tricky
Bridge-
microphone.
okay,
It's
okay.
made to not pick up any other sound but the
Oh, okay,
voice that's
okay.
right in it. So you got to sit
Okay. Yeah.
right on top of this. So what's the difference between a
Bridge-
Bridge Bossy and a Brajajan?
Bridge Basi means a resident of Bridge. So as long as you're residing there, you're actually technically considered a Bridge Basi.
All right.
And if you are born there, they're called Brajajan.
A
Which
Brajajan.
means, yeah, actual person of Bridge.
So you're a Bridge Bossy.
Basi, yeah, because I've taken residence there. So
But he's from Long Island,
Yeah.
and he's lived a very, very interesting life. And on more than one occasion, he's invited me to his home and in Vrindavan, first in Vrindavan on the banks of the Yamuna, and then now in Radhakund, and now he's living here in Mayapur.
Yeah.
With his beautiful family, and I was especially fond of him because I'd say 20 years ago, I got really into the concept of building my own house, and with natural building. I've never done it. Now, since then, I've been connected with a lot of people who have done it, building. But this isn't conventional building. It's building with earth, especially cob, which is a combination of straw and earth,
sand and clay. yeah.
sand and clay.
Mhm.
And so he built this incredibly beautiful cob house, incredible, beautiful permaculture garden, incredible composting toilet on the banks of the Yamuna. Everything was going great, and that was a breathtaking house. And I remember it was like one of my early pilgrimages. I think Ayendra was still alive at that time. It was like
Mhm,
maybe
yeah.
2008 or 2009 or something.
Mhm.
But we went there, and you hosted us, and we had lunch there. But then a few years later, there was a big flood
Yeah.
at the Yamuna, and it devastated your house
Yeah.
and
And the garden and everything.
your garden. It was probably was a little heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is, of course, to lose everything. I
Real
mean,
close.
it's lose your home, so you become homeless. And of course, something that we spend so much time building, designing, decorating, so much intention when you build your own house by your own hand. So, and then of course the garden also, everything was just underwater, like, 7 feet of water was standing there. Even the boundary walls around were underwater. We took a boat and crossed boundary walls. So it's floodplains, So
sure.
one of the rules for building cob houses, mud houses, is don't build in
on a
floodplain.
floodplain.
So yeah, there's a good reason for it.
So you moved to Radhakund, and therefore they did it again. Matter
Yeah,
of
yeah,
fact, you upcycled the windows, the doors,
Everything, even the clay,
everything.
even the clay.
Oh, you upcycled the clay.
Yeah, the foundation, which made of Rajasthani stone, so we reused everything. We just rebuilt the same house.
And
So like a child, he's like, I'm tired of this, clay model, and you soak it and you rebuild it in a different style. Is what we did.
now there's many types of natural types of building, but this cob type is especially I find especially attractive. First of all, there is a cave-like feeling when you're inside it. The
Mhm.
walls can be up to like, I'm sure you can make it any size, but sometimes they're like a foot or 2 feet.
No, 2 feet. Usually,
feet.
yeah, ours are like 20 inches, 22, 24 inches, like that.
So it's almost as if you're in how do you say it?
It's like the womb. We always
like a
equated it
womb.
like the womb of the Bhumi Devi, the earth goddess, but also because we were in Braj, so we were like in the womb of Braj and surrounded by Braj Raj. But it does give you the real thing is that you have just now. We had a dirt floor, earth floor, so you're still in contact with the earth, and the walls are made of earth. So basically, it's just a shelter which protects you from the excess elements. Too much rain, too much heat and cold, but it doesn't separate you from them.
you're in the
you're
you're in
still
the element
you're still
itself.
connected with the earth and everything, so you're totally in touch. And that way you actually really, indoors or outdoors, you're still spending time in nature in a
You know,
sense. So,
it's so funny how we're like the only species to say we need to get outdoors more. It's like we've created this thing where we falsely live in an artificial environment. We walk barefoot. If we do walk barefoot, we're walking barefoot on a rug. We're walking barefoot on fabricated, what do they call those floors?
linoleum.
Linoleums or the fake wood floor. What do they call this? You know what I'm talking about. Thank you, miss. Oh. Scalded my hands. But our connection with nature is we have a plant inside our apartment.
Nice. Yeah.
It-
A plant.
Wow. Some
Yeah.
tropical
Yeah,
plant that
that's
doesn't
right.
even grow
Yeah.
where we live.
Yeah.
And there's such a disconnect that we have to say things like, let's spend some more time outdoors this year. And it's as if we've become a weak, pathetic, domesticated animal with
Who needs to go for a walk?
that
Who
needs
be
to go
taken
for a walk on the concrete pavement, right? Like a New York City dog. And with that domestication comes almost like a little bit of a loss of yourself. You lose a little bit of your intuition. You
Oh,
live a
definitely,
bit of
definitely.
your animal instinct, of your sixth sense is sort of gone.
Definitely. Actually, that is something that I even thought about. If it came up, I would speak about. But this is something
Please.
that when I sat this morning, I sat out in the Goshala. So I go and sit with the cows, because also this is an area, like, we have thousands of devotees living in the community here, and we have the huge temple. Many of them go to the temple every day, but in the Goshala, it's empty every single day. They have
Goshala means a place where the cows are
the cow, yeah,
protected,
yeah.
if you don't know.
And then they have grazing ground for the cows, and cows have like kind of pens, but they're not tied up. It's
Sure.
basically like acreages of penned off areas. So the cows are wandering freely, but people don't go there. It is the most beautiful place to chant. It's just, you just hear birds.
Oh,
And
tomorrow
so when
morning.
I'm there, I take off my shoes, and anyway, every day I go to the garden afternoon anyway, so I'm always outdoors at least 5-6 hours every day. But just to chant there, it's getting out of my apartment that I'm renting and just go there. And there I was also feeling that that it really helps you to connect. You see the clouds, you can actually, I'm starting to actually really feel the how the weather's changing. I can notice it in the plants, and so I actually do feel way more connected with the environment. And I feel like I'm getting actually knowledge from nature itself, like actually lessons, even about weather, about health, all kinds of intuitions, different things are coming to me. And I really believe it's actually because, like a yogi, who's connected to nature, like the pran and all these things that are actually the sun, the rays, the electromagnetic energies, we're in contact with them. But being in our little boxes, we are totally blocked off from all that.
Disconnected, like the omens. We're missing out on omens or signals from nature, signals from the birds or the deer
Exactly.
or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
or the
yeah.
sounds of the wind. So right now you're temporarily living in an apartment on the banks of the Jalangi River.
Still, it's on the river, and from every window you look out, there's just greenery. There's like it's really green. Mayapur is anyway like tropical, subtropical, so there's a lot of plants everywhere, which is one of the reasons we chose that apartment. And the window facing the kitchen, you can just see the river, and across the river, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house is exactly directly across. So we still feel, it's very sacred, beautiful, lots of birds and wildlife. We even seen snakes, on the wall. We've seen mongoose there. And
I've
so
seen a lot of mongoose.
yeah, there's a lot of mongoose here. Yeah,
and they're snake eaters.
they are
Is that
snake
their
eaters.
deal?
And they eat everything,
Okay.
except for humans, I guess.
Good. Just checking.
Good. That's why we still like them.
Now,
they're cute.
The where you're working right now, you're doing like a renovation for a person's land, and we had a lunch there at this big, beautiful cob hall, and it was it's breathtaking. It's made of earth, so it's not made of dung, is it?
No,
Cow dung.
no. We use cow dung as a plaster on the walls, because it also basically we need to use earth if we want to do earth plaster. If you use pure clay, it cracks. So we use the cow dung. It adds fiber. It adds some insulation. adds definitely a nice feeling to it. Really nice earthy feeling to it. So we use just clay and cow dung, generally 50-50 mix actually.
If you're new to the podcast and new to this whole Bhakti experience, and we say, wait a second, it sounded like he said he puts cow dung on the wall. Like we're talking about this, like, yeah, everybody puts cow dung on the wall. So if you're new to this podcast and you're hearing this for the first time, you might be taken aback. You want to share a little bit about something about cow dung, because I would say civilians have no idea what you're talking about. Generally, if there's cow dung, most people are stepping around it, not searching it out, collecting it, taking cow patties and pasting it on their wall. You want to share a little bit about the benefits of cow dung?
Well, I mean, Indian culture always depended on the cow, like they consider one of the mothers, besides the earth and, the actual mother, the nurse. There's 7 mothers in India. The cow is included as one, because the mother is nourishing, right? She gives nourishment to the children, protection and nourishment. So besides milk, because as we spoke about this the other day, when people saw my cow, when they used to visit, the first question always is, how much milk does
How
she
much
give?
milk are you going to get? And the way you said it was so beautiful. If I might just butt in for a second.
Yeah.
He was just like, the way he was speaking was like, oh, I get it. The milk is actually secondary to the cow. Please go on.
Yeah, because well, actually, as a farmer, like, as a person who likes to grow my own vegetables, which I did when I was a vegan also before joining. So for me, vegetables were the main thing. So you need manure, you need fertilizer. So that's the first thing. The cows, they eat a lot, but they turn grass and food fiber into something that's like manageable in the garden for for the plants, fertilization. And you can't ever have excess of that. And the cows, they produce so much that it's so beneficial for the garden. So for me, we need a lot of vegetables, but milk, you can live with it or without it. Ultimately, I could live without it, and I did. But the vegetables, we need veggies, the fruits, everything depends on the cow dung. So for me, that was number one. And I heard this, that in Sanskrit, the term var, the var in govar, because govar means go, means cow, and var means actually the first most important aspect from the cow. Govar means the most important thing. The first thing that the cow gives is actually the milk, and number 2 is actually urine, because they also use that in all kinds of medicine. Also, the ingredient
Also
in the cow.
interesting, and also a shocker for most people.
Yeah,
like,
but
wait a second, I didn't understand what you said. You said urine, or
yeah. It's from the cow, not from a bull. The manure from cow or bull is useful in the garden.
Good to know. So if you're good drinking bull urine, you're way off track.
Yeah,
Just
you're
putting that out there right now.
Yeah, it may not
It's
be.
cow urine.
It's not as good.
I'm looking at Brian right now. I was like, crap, I've been drinking bull urine all these months. Sorry, Brian, it's cow urine. Throw that out.
Yeah, and also bulls don't give milk. That's another question we had. We had a cow and her bull, right? And people are like, does he give milk? I'm like, no, none of them do.
We are so divorced from nature.
Yeah.
By the way, squirreling back to, we used to call it squirrel is when we take a detour. Squirreling back to how we're so disconnected. Just even connection with the moon and the celestial bodies. Because we live upstate, the first thing that people come up, they say, "Oh my God, there's so many stars." Yeah, it was like we have no connection with the moon and the planets, and we've lost that. We need a moon app on our phone to tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
And like these farmers are all almanacs. They understood the moon, and they understood when to plant, when to harvest, when the changes, when hibernate. I've noticed on my property that there's a certain moon. Maybe Mara has noticed this too. Have you noticed there's a certain moon that all the animals come out of hibernation? Like you'll see like a dead raccoon here or a dead skunk because they're getting hit by a car or something, because they're all coming out at a certain day or 2 days. Porcupines. Yeah.
Well, the animals live in balance with nature, and the humans have broken that balance and continue to do so. And the more that we're attached to screens and all these, depending on these machines, the more that we depend on artificial intelligence, we lose our own intelligence.
We've outsourced our intelligence. We've outsourced our intuition.
And so it's like using, crutches if you don't need them. Your legs will get atrophy eventually. Muscles will atrophy. You'll become weak.
I like that.
So obviously these things, using artificial intelligence, I mean, it has its application, but not excessively. And as I said, really just being in touch with nature and watching the animals, I learned so much. I learned even this thing in the garden. When I hear the squirrels and the birds going haywire, you can hear it. That means there's a predator,
There's a
right?
predator somewhere.
So then you have to either think there's either a cat, mongoose, or a snake.
Mm.
So you watch your step.
So
So
good.
there's certain things that, just the animals, their behavior, you can see, mating seasons, all these things you can tell, why it's affecting, why things are affecting our consciousness
Mm.
just by watching how the animals are affected.
Now, bringing this on a spiritual twist, because there's something very beautiful and something very spiritual even about just working with the land and being in the land and walking barefoot in the land. But as a devotee of Lord Krishna, which you've been for a few decades now, many decades now, um, do you find there's a deeper pleasure in growing your own food, growing your own fruit? And then when I came over last time, you offered me these dehydrated bananas,
Mm-hmm.
which were quite wonderful, by the way. I ate
Mm-hmm.
some yesterday.
Yeah.
But offering your own food that you grow
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
your own hands.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about just that process of growing with love and offering with love. And
Yeah, I mean, the whole, basically, it's like working with other devotees to accomplish, a task, like let's say making the building. So in the same way, when I work with the plants, I plant the seed, I take care of the plant, I make it, help it to grow, I nourish it. And you can see how the plants reciprocate. They actually almost in a sense do depend a little bit on that human, nourishment and nurturing. But then when the thing actually bears fruit, it's kind of like we did this together. I don't think I grew this. It's the plant, the sun, the gods, whoever's in charge of all of the universal affairs. Everyone took part in this, and now I get to offer it. So it's not just me, feeling that it's like just the whole everything that went into it, and you actually feel not only happy to offer the best quality thing that you grew, but you feel grateful to all the other energies everyone who else put into the plant, to the rain, to the water in the earth and the earth herself, to the cow who helped fertilize. There's so many, and you actually become consciously aware that I'm not the most important person here in this, equation,
sure.
because the seed came from elsewhere. I did the job of planting, but the cow dung, that was her job, and the earth held it, and the rains. So there's so much going in. It's like it really, it's like teamwork, to please Krishna.
It,
And you're also engaging the cow. You're engaging all of these other entities in the service of Krishna. There was a place where I heard Prabhupada was questioned. It was, I think, a morning walk. So a devotee asked if a flower gets offered to Krishna, is that the flower's karma? Like, is he a devotee? And he said, no, that is the grace of a saintly person. That whatever he gets, he knows how to engage in the service of Krishna. And so it feels like that also, to be the one who actually goes through the process, but actually takes it, to the altar and being able to offer so everyone who participated gets the benefit. I would say even the rain god himself is pleased that, well, now I did my part, but you're the one who actually, gave me the benefit, in the sense,
It's such a deep
it's
lesson.
beneficial, not just to the humans we see
Yeah.
on the street who we want to preach to, but it's beneficial for everyone who's involved. The plant, the cow, the devas, the gods, everyone gets benefit,
It's this
just
deep
by doing that.
benefit and overall feeling of gratitude. And you can't help but feel like, oh, I get it. I'm part of something much bigger and something more subtle.
Yeah, it is
Because
subtle.
I have this illusion that I'm the controller, and I look at other controllers and who built that building? That's beautiful. And who built this? That's beautiful. And basically it boils down to this just other man. But then you realize when you're planting and harvesting, like there's other forces here.
Yeah, there's
that
so
are
many
beyond.
energies, so many energies that are necessary. And without the sun, that's it.
Mm.
Because the water, we can even artificially bring it there. But, I can see now that it's warming up. I see how some of the plants just exploded. Seeds I planted like, 3 weeks ago, I thought they're bad. Seeds are dead. Just as soon as it rained once, it warmed up. Now everything is, coming to life. So we, in that sense, you don't feel like I am the doer. I am dependent, highly dependent, on so many environmental factors, which are not in my control. But when the result is there, the actual fruit, you feel like, wow, it's like it was so worth it to be able to offer this and then offer to my friends or family, because we have excess. When you have a little bit of land, even you can actually produce excess. And when you have excess, it's not my nature to just go and sell off everything. I like to distribute, give it out, share. like this dehydrate, the excess of bananas and share it with friends. That's something I
I'm
generally
here to
do.
accept more excess, whatever you got. The excess bananas. Another thing, going back to the Cobb houses, there's a beauty in that this is a community project.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be it does take some like intelligence, and I'm sure you've learned how to do it better in trial and error. But there is like a simplicity of like, we're building this thing with mud, and get all the kids involved,
Yeah.
and get the family involved, and everyone's got a seat at the table almost.
Yeah, everyone can participate. It's really easy, especially after the main mixing is done. Even the mixing, when you watch the kids, they like to jump and mix. I mean, they get bored and tired quickly. But once you actually, start digging out the little balls of the clay that we're going to start, placing as the wall, that's when, the kids are really into it. They're participating. They always climb up, and receive it and start packing it down. And so it's literally a community project, and it's like blood, sweat, not always tears, but a lot of blood and sweat goes into that, mixing, and literally we're sweating, it's entering. And so the whole thing, every single square inch or millimeter of that building has been touched and, moved by humans who actually, worked hard to get this thing put together. So you can literally feel that, the energy, and it's not the same as buying the materials that are industrially harvested, the earth being, blown up to get the granite out and then sliced and then transported. This is all stuff we're basically doing right on the site, so it's
Sure.
just
There's no big dumpsters of waste. There's no fabricated floors. There's no formaldehyde, and which is basically we're creating a toxic world.
to live in.
To live in. And then there's all these rules about throwing out. You can't throw out those light bulbs. You need a special permit to throw out those light bulbs. You can't throw out those air conditioners. Well, why are you building these things?
Yeah.
What about the people that build? So you're building with the elements of the earth, living within, surrounded by the elements of the earth, and you can't help. Now, that being said, you have electricity. You run electric.
There we have. Yeah, there we have. Yeah.
It's impressive. But the thick walls, does it keep it cool in the summer?
Yeah, that's one of the main effects of it. Keeps it cool, and also, I mean, this house we built was mainly for cool because we don't have in Mayapur we don't have a heavy cold season, so I didn't really consider to build it for keeping it warm in winter. But if the building is made properly, it's warmer in winter and cooler in summer. Always, and basically, you can maintain a temperature inside that you want. And like our house in Radhakund, we open the windows, in the winter time, you keep them closed. In the nighttime, you open them in the daytime, get the warm air, and then trap it inside. And the opposite in the summer, all night you have the windows open, and daytime we close them, so we keep the cool air inside. And that's kind of like it really really makes a huge difference. Like I've seen this, I've watched in the temples and different concrete buildings when they switch on the fan after the winter. You can see that, and ours is like almost a month later when we actually start to use the fans in our house.
Amazing.
So this is like, it's clear, the temperature difference actually in such a mud building.
And I just want to point out the fact that I'm not merely impressed by your building. I know if I could double myself, I'd be doing what you're doing. If I could clone myself, and I'm also impressed with the fact that you're one of these guys that got into Bhakti and you just said, you know what, my material way of living is over, and I'm moving to India, and I'm not coming back. You sort of look Indian. When I first met you, I thought you were Indian.
Yeah.
And then and you were like, oh no, I listened to Shelter for a while. I lived on Long Island. So you are Long Island from a Jewish family. You're not like not only you're not from India or Assam or Nagaland, you're like from Long Island, from a well-to-do Jewish family. And you probably could have inherited your father's business, and you just walked away from it all.
Actually,
You want to share that story, please?
Yeah, the thing is, when we were all looking into college, which is what every kid has to do, like it's no choice, like which college you're going to, and then the college fairs, and like you're kind of like forced to like go and find one quick, because that's what you're gonna do the rest of your life. I was like, wow, okay, I'm like 18, 17, I'm gonna decide what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life.
A moment ago, you were playing with toys.
Yeah.
Now you got to figure something out immediately.
Yeah, when I was 17, I guess I thought I was grown up, but now that I'm 30 years later, I'm like, I was just a dumb kid. I knew nothing. And how are you going to tell him you choose your life? No way, So, and then I thought, well, my father, we have this, he has a multi-million-dollar business, which was started by my grandfather, like started by him. turned into $1 million business. My father and my uncle turned into multi-million. We had cars, boats, everything. So I thought, well, then why need to go to college, right? I should just join the family business.
Sure.
And my father told me this when I asked him. He said, I wouldn't give this business to my enemy.
Oh, really?
He said, yeah, get a good education and do something else with your life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He wasn't encouraging you to
No,
take it over.
no.
Isn't that
He was
interesting?
so he was so disappointed, so like so much headache and so much hard work, just to
Wow.
maintain that. So yeah, wow. For me, it was like, what is he saying?
Yeah.
Like I thought we were enjoying. I thought this
Right.
was a good thing that you had a lot of money, and this like kind of, already I had doubts in the American dream, but that was proof that
That's a pretty powerful statement to get
yeah,
from your father.
yeah,
Because you're enjoying all the accoutrements of material success,
we did.
and he took care of you and he loved you, but it was too much.
Yeah,
He
said,
was
I
he was
don't
a
want you to,
martyr.
I
He
don't
was
want you to.
dying for you,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even actually satisfying.
No,
What
it
good
wasn't
is that
satisfying.
boat?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Exactly. So that's why I thought, wow, 2 years later when I was in college, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? So that's when I decided not to continue with college and look around, see what I'm going to do with my life.
Wow.
And then after a short time, of course, I learned about reincarnation and karma. I heard from different people who had real world experiences. I met elders. Actually, there was a thing when I left college, I was always in my own age group.
Mm.
Not even where I grew up, not even the older kids, 1 year older or 1 year younger. We hardly ever mixed. We were always with our own age group. So
Right.
it was just a bunch of immature, idiots. We didn't know much. We knew what we all knew, what all 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-olds knew. And finally, when I left and started to travel the US, I started to meet elderly people, like
Right.
people who went through the 60s, people who were Vietnam vets became hippies, but they had knowledge and they had wisdom, actually,
Mm.
life wisdom. And it
Are
was
you talking
quite
about
different.
spiritual people or?
Some, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, actually, it's a mixed bag. If you go to rainbow gathering, there's all types of people, but some of them are actually wise. Some of them are actually seekers.
Mm.
And it's the same everywhere you go in any religion. In any church, you'll find people who are sincerely praying to God with tears in their eyes, and people who are like, I hope you're gonna get me that large screen TV because
Paying to God for stuff.
yeah, for stuff, or like I have been sinning quite a bit, so I better just wash it off. So there's
Right.
all types of people, and then but there I learned, that yeah, there's something higher powers. There's energies, and people worshipped devas, gods, and so I kind of like got a mixed bag of I always say religious kitchery,
Well,
mixture of a trail mix of religions, you can say.
were your parents, your parents were practicing Jews? Ish?
Practicing like conservative or obviously reform
Reformed
American Jews do.
For
Yeah, so-
American. Okay. But you followed that path. You got bar
No,
mitzvah.
yeah, I got bar mitzvah.
You
Yeah,
got
yeah.
all of it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was worth it, I guess, because that was the money I took when I decided to leave college and travel.
Which
my
was
my
at
bar
age
mitzvah
what?
money.
Your bar mitzvah money?
13, and then I left college when I was 19,
Okay.
and I traveled, and then 2 years later, I was in the temple. When I was 21 is when I joined because I had taken that money. I did travel. I met all these people. I ended up in the mountains, North California, totally secluded place,
Mhm.
no electricity, just living in a cabin there, and watching the sun rise, watching the sun, learning about nature and solstices and
That itself
equinoxes
is a
and
big step from Long Island.
it was completely different. But it's actually when I got there, I felt like this is what I wanted to do my whole life. This
Wow.
is like I had when I was there, I was having remembrances of dreams and places I visited when I was young, like a ranch, a farm, and I was like, actually, this is what I always wanted to do: be on the earth, connect with the earth. It feels more real than living, in
Sure.
a building with the AC. We had, our house, the AC, and we had the heat in the winter, and I
Nowadays,
had a
you
water
can't
bed
even
with
like
a,
open
heater.
the windows, and like you go to a hotel, you can't open the windows. Everything is temperature, climate
Yeah,
controlled.
yeah.
You, yeah.
So I didn't. I mean, when I just living in the nature and the elements, and my mind actually really had some, a significant change. I became way more peaceful, healthier. I mean, I think for the whole 1 year I lived in the mountains, I don't remember getting sick even once, ever.
Wow.
And before that, I always have allergies, seasonal things, this, that, and so I was like really, really healthy, living off of the land and mostly organic. And then my consciousness started to, when I studied yoga in that environment, the yoga process, my mind really started to be affected by the process of yoga. And then when I read about bhakti yoga through the Bhagavad Gita, then I was convinced that this is the highest process for actually evolving to the maximum that a human can evolve. to actually understand what is God and see him in every entity and every being and every particle of the creation.
Unbelievable.
So it was being in that environment. Obviously, the sattvic mode of goodness really helps to understand what is God.
And were your parents supportive, or were they like, "What the hell are you doing?" Your
Kind
father
of.
was a professional,
Yeah.
and he inherited the business from his father. He's
Yeah.
working on it with his brother. He
Yeah.
has a Jewish family background, which probably has a lot of customs and a lot of connections to how we are supposed to do things. Was there pushback you got from mom or dad or brothers?
Not really. When I decided to leave college, my father was against it, and then I was kind of like, well, I'm gonna do it because I just felt convinced that I have to. There was actually inner force that was pushing me. You are right. You should drop out. You should search for what you want to do with
Mm.
your life. And so my father originally was obviously against it. But then I basically was like, well, I'm doing this, so either I can meet you, like and go and visit you sometime, or that's it. Like we cut connection, because I was just so convinced.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm 19 now. I'm standing up for what I want to do.
Wow.
I'm not following your path anymore.
Wow.
It was a little rude, but I felt that this is true. This is real. This is what I'm doing. And yeah, as I said, then a few years later, I was already convinced about the yogic path. I was having realizations I was having realizations by process and following the process, and these same things were written in books. Like I wasn't reading the book and then like, oh yeah, now I was having realizations and later finding this thing that I realized in that meditative trance. It's also written about here.
Wow.
And sometimes some of those things came even 10 years later. I read about them. So then I understood this yogic process actually changes the consciousness of a human being.
Wow.
And which is the goal of human life, and which is something we have over plants and animals. The development of human consciousness is almost unlimited, actually. How deep and how many things we can not only learn, but actually vigyan and gyan, right? There's gyan, which is knowledge, and vigyan, which is practical realization of the knowledge. And the yogic path affords you of that, actually. So you can memorize, any other religion, you can memorize the scripture, but it's different when you follow the process that your consciousness actually starts. These things become, as we say, shastra chakshus, right? You're looking through the eyes of Shastra. You actually see the world according to the scripture, and you realize that is truth. That is reality.
Now, how powerful is bhakti? I mean, I understand the benefits of living connected with nature, but what if I'm living in New York City and I just can't live in the earthen hut? Can bhakti transcend? There's lots of benefits, and there's lots of benefits for the environment. There's lots of benefits for my own psyche. There's lots of benefits for my intuition. What if I can't do it? And we were talking privately. We were just saying, some people just can't live simply.
Actually, some people can't live in nature. I mean, many people, they want to. I mean, actually, you can see many city people when they visit the countryside. It's not uncommon that they love it. It's beautiful. But, what I'm supposed to do here? Farm?
Right.
I'm a businessman, so it's
Right.
not that they're opposed to nature. It's just that there's no facility. They haven't been raised in such a way, or they just don't know how to. So I'm not saying everyone should do it, but it is my lifestyle. Actually, I'm doing it because I like to. I didn't do it for teaching other people. I'm not doing it to profess that this is the way and save the earth. That's not my thing. I'm doing it because I like to. It soothes my heart and my mind, and that's where I'm most peaceful and most effective.
Me and your wife were joking. Am I allowed to say your wife?
Yeah.
Okay. Me and your wife were joking the other day about your son, because your son grew up, beautiful child. Your son grew up in Vrindavan, and he never went to a restaurant before he came to Mayapur.
Yeah.
And he couldn't understand. He's 14 now, right?
Yeah, 13. Yeah.
Never went to a restaurant. And so he's like,
I think first restaurant was when he was 10 or 9 or 10.
And they're like, why are they taking our plates?
Yeah. Like he thought
they're going to wash our plates for us? What? Why are they?
Yeah, even the napkins, he was like, what are those things for? So, well, some people wipe on them when they're done eating. He said, but they don't wash. I said, that's up to them, I guess.
He's probably one of the most unprogrammed children I've ever met.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been unprogrammed by material
he grew
culture.
up in an Indian village, so that's what he knows, village life. So Mayapur is like westernized portion of India, very westernized. The influence actually here is more Western than even Bengali, like over
Yeah, 'cause
Even
there's
the
so many
Bengalis are
Westerners
adapting.
here. That's
Even
the
the
point.
Bengalis are adapting to it, in the
Acha,
sense.
acha.
But yeah, he's adapting, I guess, also now a little bit. He's somewhere in between worlds. He's become a little more international.
He's a little more every kid here is a little international.
But since he's been here, he learned Bengali way better.
Oh, really?
So a lot of the Western kids don't learn Bengali properly.
Mm.
He learned a lot. He's learning a lot, and he's quite fluent in Bengali now. So Hindi, Bengali, Brijbhasa, English.
Not bad.
Yeah,
13 years old.
yeah. But he's still, he's still not in particularly into studies. But for us, it's the main thing is the quality. He's a really nice, kind-hearted person, which is first and foremost. That he's a straightforward, honest person. That's
Well, I
what we're
think
aiming for.
according to the Greeks, it was the goal of education is to develop character.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the last thing. If the absolute last thing I developed in junior high school was
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If anything, I learned how to be a dirtbag
Yeah,
in school.
Me too. I'm still working on the character thing. I mean, I just heard about it, recently. So
Jiva's in the background laughing, I think. But and it's true. And yeah, we want our kids to be gentle. Can't even say if I say like nowadays that my son is gentle, people will be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. What happened? He got you." It's like a horrible thing.
Yeah,
No,
people
to be
take
a
advantage, yeah.
gentleman.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore.
Yeah, we don't have that.
We have
it's
a
not
bunch-
it's not a virtue. It's not considered a virtue in
It's
this
not a
day and
virtue.
age. So
You say a gentleman's club in America, we think a bunch of people with top hats and monocles. A gentleman's club is a strip joint. That's what a gentleman's club is. There is no gentleman. It's not a beautiful quality.
you're asking actually about the point of performing bhakti in the city or whatever. So we
Yeah,
strayed
please.
from it.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
And I just wanted to say that the bhakti is an internal process. And I know that Carl Jung, he said this. He said that who looks outward sees a dream. Who looks inward awakens.
Ooh,
Yeah. So if
t-shirt. That's a t-shirt,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, it's a beautiful statement. Actually, and that's also our bhakti philosophy, right? That this world is basically like a dream. And even now, if you learn a little bit about physics, they basically say the same thing, that molecules basically, bend according to what we think they're going to do. They actually are influenced by the consciousness, by consciousness and animals, whatever it is, but consciousness actually bends the material realm. So it's not actually what we're seeing is actually a dream. It's kind of false in a sense. But when you look inward, you actually awaken. When you look inward, that's where you actually find the soul, the consciousness, the one who's experiencing the external world, the actual experiencer. So that's where where any person who lives in any situation, that's where they have to look, for the truth is internally. So it's not just nature. Nature is, in the sense it's sattvic, it's mode of goodness, so it facilitates introspection.
It facilitates the internal.
Yeah.
It facilitates a peaceful mind.
Yeah.
It
Makes it easier.
It makes it easier. There's less.
But it's not an essential ingredient in attaining pure devotional service or bhakti. It's not an essential.
Mara went to high school in upstate New York, surrounded by the Catskills or the forests and the land conservancies. And I'm sure you could say, Mara, it's not like everyone in high school is a sage, a rishi, or right? There's like a bunch of good old boys who want to get drunk every weekend and riding around in pickup trucks with American flags hanging around the back. And so it's not necessarily the environment, but the knowledge that we study when applied to natural living, it becomes quite wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's a synergy actually. It's a synergy. Your bhakti and natural living, they join together and they just create a force actually, where the bhakti becomes more powerful, more deep actually, more deep. And then of course all of the things that you utilize in. I mean, Krishna was the god we worship is a country boy. He's a cowboy.
He's a cowboy.
So he likes nature. He runs barefoot. His mother's trying to tell him, hey, you should wear shoes. Well, the cows don't wear shoes. How can I? So he just goes running barefoot through the forest. He enjoys that. Eating the fruits from the trees, and that was one of the things that really attracted me to the personality of Krishna. Like I was studying yoga, so I was more into the impersonal idea, that God is everywhere and we are all conscious beings, eternal beings. But when I heard that, that the actual supreme person, instead of being the God and the controller who punishes and rewards, he actually decided to leave that to Vishnu. I'm not going to do the hard work, and I just want to play.
Outsource that to
I want to play.
Outsource that to India.
So he so he decided that, I'm just gonna play. I want to play. I want to hang out with my friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, my mother. I want to have fun. I want to have fun. And I want to be like, ordinary in the sense, that my friends can climb on my shoulders. And the awe and reverence thing didn't even appeal to Krishna.
It is at the very least, we have a very interesting, cool conception of higher power. That our higher power is adorable country boy,
Yeah.
country
Who was always on
country
vacation.
country toddler, is always eating. He's sneaky. He's not like this. He's a liar. He's a thief. He cheats you occasionally. He breaks his promises.
Yeah. He likes to have fun. He likes to have fun. So whatever it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, where do I want to go next? I'm oodling with questions, and unfortunately, it always goes back to composting toilets, and maybe it shouldn't. Mara's saying, no, don't go there. I'm just saying it's important, Mara. You got to understand, it's got to go somewhere. People flush the toilet, think it's going somewhere. Composting toilets, how do you do them? Let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, the system we use always is one that was developed in India because Indian people used to just go in the field and that was their system, right? I mean, most people, like a
There's
lot
villages
of
all
villagers.
over the world.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it, right? Anyone who rides on the train, you watch them as you go by, and they watch you. There's another train. Hundreds of passengers watching the guy pass through. That was a normal thing in India, but also breeds disease. It's not clean. It's obviously not something you can do when you have 1 billion plus population, right?
Sure.
So there was a guy who decided to think of a system which they can initiate in any village, and you don't need any special technique or any special materials. So they just make like two honeycomb tanks underground. Honeycomb means they have basically a tank, but everywhere, every so often they have bricks that leave a gap so that the water and all that stuff escapes. Gas also escapes into the earth. Then we have two tanks. One is in use and the other one is laying dormant. And when one tank is filled, then we just switch, which is a Y piece, and you just direct sewage to the other side, and that's it. And then years later, you go and you can dig that human manure up, which is just totally devoid of bacteria or any semblance of human waste. Actually,
It's as if the humans are the only ones that can't, the only species that cannot figure this out. Everybody else, every other animal is defecating and it's working with nature. Yet somehow we are trying to chemically treat everything, put it in holding tanks, septic tanks.
Yeah, they're called septic tanks. They're septic actually. They're completely like, full of ridden with bacteria and dangerous bacteria. Actually, is what it is. It's a dangerous bacterial, aquarium is what we've done there.
Right.
So don't touch it.
And that's the countryside. In the cities, it's even worse.
The cities is worse, obviously.
Because they're what do they do? They have these holding tanks, these chemical tanks,
I don't even know how they manage it.
and they put so much
sewage treatment generally.
sewage treatment, and it's not done with
Chemicals.
Dr. Bronner's. It's done with like different chemicals that somehow will end up back in the water
In the
table.
ocean,
It doesn't
yeah.
go away or into the ocean. Yeah, it's such a broken system. Do you ever feel like, okay, I'm gonna wind this up, but do you ever feel like, okay, I'm doing my part. I built my house out of nature. I have a permaculture garden. There's partner plants growing. I'm taking the leaves from the trees and acting as the compost. I've got worms growing and fertilizing this. I'm doing everything right. God will be happy. But right next door, they're fracking. Right next door, they're building up an ugly apartment building, or they're going to spray. They're going to spray it with Monsanto's going to come by. Do you ever feel like, what's the use of this?
No, I would never feel like what's the use, because at least I'm still in majority providing my family with organic produce, and also an example in the sense, like I said, I'm not going and posting it out there. I don't have an Instagram account, and I don't make use of these things to show what I'm doing.
You don't have Instagram.
Sorry.
Oh, so you're really missing out on a lot.
You want to like delete the podcast?
We gotta go now, people. I thought he was gonna drive all his followers to our podcast. He's got no followers. He's followed by his wife and son. Okay, sorry, go on. So you're saying,
yeah, it's not that I'm as I said, I'm doing it because I like to do it, So no matter what anyone else does, I don't need to preach to them or whatever, that they should not use chemical. Of course, the neighbors on the sides I do tell them, hey, don't spray your herbicide too close to our, because we have plants here also, right?
Sure.
But it's like, it's kind of just out of control. Everyone's out of control. So again, instead of like, trying to convince everyone else to do what I'm doing, I do it. I just do it. And I'm just hoping eventually people will realize, that actually these fruits and vegetables do taste better. And actually you can just grow with cow dung. And in one sense, it is cheaper ultimately, What I've seen is on the land that we've been working, which was before the owner bought it, it was obviously commercially, commercial crops and the cash crops. So that just means monocropping, one particular crop that they grow. And the soil is, anything you plant there doesn't grow. Everything is just like, the soil is actually dead. It has no microorganisms. It has no
That comes
fungal
from
networks.
monocropping.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And then chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers are just, they're water soluble basically, so the plants can just drink it up. But previously, the God system is that there's like nematoids and fungal, this fungal matter and different fungal networks that actually digest the matter, and they connect with the roots, and they feed the nutrients from the decaying matter into the plants, and the plants feed sugar back to the fungus. The symbiosis, which somebody had to think of,
Right.
higher ups there, they thought about it like, how do you just like put a whole bunch of entities that can maintain each other, live in harmony with each other?
People
And then
be
there's
so
one species who's like, hey,
short-sighted.
hey, let's just take over everything. Let's break the balance wherever we can, because we can make money on it. Some of us.
Sure. And are these okay? It's producing great apples. I put all these heavy metals on the orchards, and I'm producing these great, beautiful, shiny apples. And there's no worms and there's no pests. Do they have the same nutritional content?
No, definitely. If they're using this chemical fertilizers, they don't, because they don't have micronutrients. They use NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So those are three things you need to grow a plant. But I said the other day, it's like, feeding a kid white flour so his belly's full, and then giving him vitamins, to supplement. Like,
Sure.
will he grow healthy? Like, give him a nice multivitamin,
Yeah, the Flintstone of Gotham.
Exactly. And you give him enough that, he should have all the nutrition he needs. I doubt that, his teeth won't just be like brittle, like paper, I don't think that's going to work. So it's kind of the same what they're doing with the plants, just these three nutrients that a plant needs to look good and healthy and make it to the table. But it doesn't have, selenium, zinc, and folic acid and all the other things that the body actually needs. So that's why everyone's on multivitamins, right? Or now we're eating superfoods, to supplement our
What do you think?
dead foods,
What do you think of the superfood fascination that's happened for the last 20 years?
I use it, but I grow my own superfood, so I think it's if they're natural supplements, we use moringa. Moringa is something that
grows
grows
everywhere,
here.
right?
Yeah, so I just harvest the leaves, dehydrate them, and powder it. So I'm giving my family, organic from my own source. In that sense, we use superfoods, but I don't really purchase it from other places or something. But I think if you live in a city where all your produce is chemically fertilized, chemically grown, in many places, India and probably in the West also, they will grow, let's say, mango and bananas. They'll grow them with chemical fertilizer. They'll spray pesticides so nothing attacks it. They harvest them unripe, and then they take them they can ship them when they're green and hard still. And when they get to the markets, they spray them. I think it's carbonic acid, which ripens them, artificially ripens them. And then we, feed that to our children. So of course this is like, how can there, well, not to speak of no nutrition, it's so much chemicals there. It's so unnatural. And then we talk about disease and diabetes. I don't think we need to have these huge amounts of people dying every year from all these kinds of weird diseases.
Prabhu, you set such a good example. You say you don't, quote, preach to anybody, but your example is the preaching. Thomas Aquinas said, live and sometimes speak, meaning your lifestyle is such a loud statement. I've been inspired, and I'm sure you inspired everybody today. I want to thank you for coming on.
Okay, thanks for having me.
And keep up doing what you're doing. Everybody, also want to thank Silver Tulsi Mala again. There's a giveaway, bead bag giveaway, this beautiful hand-painted bead bag of Krishna. You want to win this? We got 3 giveaways. Oh, picture. Giridhari is going to do this too. Take the favorite picture of Krishna, tag Wisdom of the Sage, tag Silver _Tulasi _Mala, and at Raghunath Yogi. You post it, and me and Mara will find the sweetest picture of Krishna and we'll send it to you. Giridhari, thanks for doing what you're doing. Keep that Instagram account going. I'll be your 4th follower, perhaps 3rd follower. And inspired me. He's inspired me.
Jai Shri Krishna Bola Jai Radhe.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We're back tomorrow with Stuba. Stuba's been just witnessing us today. You can see him on Zoom today. He's up there giving a peace sign. Yes. We had a beautiful lunch together yesterday. Back tomorrow with the full team. We'll also say a little prayer for Merritt now that she gets better. We're out of it. Going up anyway to do a service. Beautiful day after a beautiful day. Let the magic continue. See you tomorrow at 6 a.m. New York time.